Hello, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Keon.
And this is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast where we have to know if Ultravox broke up. Because this week we watched Cold War.
Written by Mark Gatiss.
Directed by Douglas McKinnon.
And aired on April 13th, 2013.
Yeah, we're in the Cold War now. The Russians are the heroes for once.
Or just the, characters who get caught up
We're
in
just the protagonists, I guess.
Yeah.
Communism intensifies.
Welcome to Union, comrade.
It's not my sub, it's our sub. Our podcast.
Anyway, Mark Gatiss was both the writer and the driving force behind this story.
Right.
Kind of like how Neil Cross was the driving force. Actually, that's not true. He was asked to be a part of Rings of Akaten.
Yeah, well, Mark Gatiss apparently really wanted the Ice Warriors to come back, and Moffat was like, nah, there's nothing you can do with the Ice Warriors. They're kind of a joke.
Yes, I think Moffat brought up the Ice Warriors as like the classic example of like a pretty mediocre classic series villain. You can't understand what they're saying.
The Ice Warriors were awesome,
they were awesome. And I mean, I was looking back at the earlier Ice Warrior stories, and I was shocked that there were only 4 of them.
Yeah, it was the Ice Warriors, the 2 Peladon stories.
Yeah, and the Seeds of Death? Doom? I think it was Death. Pretty sure it was Death.
Probably.
And I don't know, they survived in my mind as like these awesome villains, and I thought they were in more stories.
They didn't go beyond the 3rd Doctor.
No, they didn't. Yeah, this is the first time they've been back since the 70s.
All the big finishes, unsurprisingly, brought him back.
Yeah. Moffat didn't want to bring them back. He said the costumes were janky, the voices were dumb.
Wow, Moffat. That sounds a little prejudiced.
Sounds kind of like the angels. No, I'm kidding. Angels don't speak. That would be ludicrous. Now, I keep saying that like every time we bring up the angels as if I know insider information as to like them speaking later on, but I mean, I don't, obviously.
You just gotta sound like an authority and everyone will believe you. You know, social engineering. If you walk like you belong, no one's going to question you. Walk into a construction site with like an orange vest and a hard hat on and no one's going to be like, hey, you don't belong here. People will always make the easiest assumption. If you're wearing an orange vest and a hard hat, they'll just assume you belong. Anyway, Mark Gatiss, apparently on a call that was supposed to be about Sherlock, was like, Moffat, look, the Ice Warriors, I had this great idea. We'll take them out of their costumes. And Moffat was like, wow, mind blown, let's do it.
Worst part of the story.
But apparently what really sold Moffat on the idea was the contained nature of the submarine setting.
Yeah, I don't know if Mark Gatiss, used this term explicitly, but this is definitely a callback to the Base Under Siege formula and like this classic...
It was like all of season 6, I think it was.
So they go that route, and it's not pretty sometimes.
No, there are large sections of the story where nothing happens.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder how they did it so well in the classic series, which isn't to say that like every Base Under Siege in the classic series was great, but they definitely, at least multiple times, did it better than this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Is that just us looking back with those rose-tinted glasses?
No, I think they just did the formula better. Sometimes. There were many times when it was worse.
I guess. And it's like, if I remember correctly, sometimes the base would like change or like would move. The front line would like move, I guess. But here they're on a sub, so you know what can they really do? And
also every episode the cliffhanger would be like, the base is gonna blow up. The next episode would be like, just kidding, the Doctor rewired the bomb or something like that.
Base Under Siege actually continued into season 7 in a way with like Inferno kind of, and like the Ambassadors of Death in a way. They had that like
unless
lab.
You consider the whole Earth.
They had that.
Base.
There was that lab thing with that scientist who was like trapped in the lab.
Okay, that was less Base Under Siege and more Base just immediately gets overrun by the most overpowered villains in Doctor Who history.
Yeah, where are the ambassadors? Forget the Ice Warriors. Bring back the Ambassadors of Death.
Yeah, you want to talk about villains that had janky costumes and you couldn't understand what they were saying? It's the Ambassadors of Death.
Like the Raston warrior robot.
He didn't even talk. He just jumped around really happily.
Well, there was that sound effect that played whenever it
Okay,
disappeared.
but that's not talking.
And you know, maybe it's their form of communication.
I guess.
Anyway, the Ice Warriors are back in the form of Skaldak.
Yeah, Skaldak.
And yeah, I guess we'll talk about the costume and the achievement of this when we get there.
Well, this is a note on the previous Ice Warriors. I think the costume designer or Moffat, I don't remember which of the two, described the Ice Warriors as having Lego hands, and I was like, it's a good point. How do they do anything with those hands?
Yeah, I think it was Gatiss actually who wanted to keep the design classic.
Yeah, because he was like, it's iconic. We don't need to change it.
Yeah, and I think Moffat sort of agreed. I think Moffat said that the Ice Warriors hadn't appeared enough to make a significant change to the design and have that be like a big thing. Because, you know, they can change up the Cyberman or Dalek design, and that would be a big event.
Yeah, but I was also wondering how much of that was Moffat going, you know, when we redesigned the Daleks earlier this season, it was like really, or last season, it was really poorly received 2 seasons ago, so better not change anything now.
Yeah.
But, so they filmed it. I remember it was in about 2016. Moffat was like, you know, we really kind of wasted all the talent on Cold War. Because apparently all the like guest actors in the story went on to do like bigger and more famous things after the story. And Moffat, it was in an article where Moffat was talking about like his biggest quote missed opportunities unquote. And one of them was like barely doing anything with, what's her name? I'm completely blank. Olivia Colman in The 11th Hour. And he's like, she's a great actress. She's like really famous now. We could have done something bigger with her. And then he's like, Cold War, though, was the biggest missed opportunity because literally everyone in that story went on to do like bigger things. And he lists them all off. And I was like, wow, that's a good point, actually. All of them did go on to do bigger things.
Well, maybe they can make a guest appearance on Doctor Who at some point in the future.
Maybe, but at some point you become like too big and expensive for the paltry budget of the BBC.
Well, there's been some famous people on Doctor Who, especially in the specials.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of them like definitely were before they were famous. I mean, Kylie Minogue was kind of like one of the exceptions to that.
Sure.
But that was like, Kylie was like, I really want to be on Doctor Who. So. Anyway, the story begins with a Russian sub getting ready to launch nukes.
Yeah. Yeah.
For no reason. And then this professor dude just like wanders onto the bridge and he's like, what's up, guys? And interrupts. And the guy's like, never mind, guys. We'll run the drill again tomorrow.
Yeah, so the two sort of main guys here are the captain and the professor who's really into like American pop music.
Which I'm sure would be like an exilable offense in Soviet Russia. But hey, I don't know.
Yeah.
This seems to be a pretty liberal sub, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, you know, I don't know, maybe I just don't know what Russian like military regalia and outfits just looked like in the 80s, because this takes place in 83. But I didn't get they were Russian immediately. What kind of clued me in was the dialogue after a while, and then there's some Russian like signs in the background.
Yeah, and the captain's name is like Zhukov or something.
Yeah. Brzarov.
Well, they don't give any of them accents.
No.
Which I guess is explained by the translation circuit, but you kind of have to wonder why every American on the show ever has like a thick accent. But these Russians are just speaking with perfect received pronunciation. Do you think the TARDIS is a dialect meter on its translation circuit? And it's like, oh, you know, today I really want everybody to sound like they're from Yorkshire. Because you'd really want Yorkshire aliens.
Yeah, one day they're just going to show up in, like, I don't know, Canada, and everyone's going to be speaking with, I don't know, like... some
Canadian accent?
No. Like some, I don't know, a Cockney accent or something.
So then the TARDIS materializes on the sub.
Yeah, there's this, like, sort of moment right before the intro sequence where they're keeping something obviously, like, dangerous that they dredged up and it's frozen, you know, encased in ice. This guy goes, like, with a blowtorch to it, and he's like, the captain said that we weren't going to thaw you out till we got back to Moscow. But I'm not going to wait. So he starts blowtorching the thing, and a hand reaches out and kills him.
Yeah, in some ways this is a poor decision, but in many ways probably saves the world. So,
I guess.
I mean, can you imagine thawing this thing out like in the middle of the Kremlin? Like, and it just goes on a rampage through the Kremlin and then has access to not only the stubs and nukes, but all the nukes in the entire Russian arsenal. Bad times.
Who was the president in '83? Was it
Reagan. Yeah. It was Reagan till 88, and then it was HW till 92, right? And then, did HW do one term?
Yeah, I think all of them did. I don't know. I think they all did 2 terms back to Reagan, or even before that.
And then, well, Clinton was 92 to 2000, so...
Okay, I guess not, then. It doesn't matter.
Clinton definitely did 2 terms.
Yeah.
But, I mean, even still, it was probably Reagan.
Yeah.
I brush up on my recent American history. No, it would have had to have been Reagan, because even if HW did 2 terms, it would have been 84 to 92. So, it would have been Reagan.
All right, then. Doesn't really matter.
No, I guess not. The bigger question is, who was in charge of the Soviets in 83?
No idea. No idea. Couldn't even guess. Could guess, but it wouldn't be like even close.
I'm gonna guess
like the Pillsbury Doughboy or something.
I mean, it could have been Gorbachev.
I don't know, but
it
I
would have
feel
been
like
Gorbachev or later.
I don't know. I think in at least since the beginning of the '80s was the point where the Soviet Union started to just kind of like fall apart.
Yeah,
formally, but like also all the other countries that started.
I mean, I'm not an expert on Russian history, but the seeds of destruction, the seeds of doom were sown right about the time Stalin died, and then like all of his subordinates were fighting to take over.
If you really want to trace this back, like this all started in like the 19th century. Like all of this, the Soviets, like American whatever imperialism, nationalism.
Yeah. I mean, the Soviets weren't the Soviets till 1914, October Revolution.
Yeah, no, but you read like Russian history and literature, and like the seeds of it are there since like, I don't know, the middle of the 19th century. But whatever, I mean, so here's the thing. On a completely different note, I didn't know that the Ice Warriors / Ice Warrior is just one. We're going to be in this. I didn't know until they unceremoniously have him just stomping down the corridor.
Yeah, I thought the reveal for this was pretty good, at least in my memory, and then I watched the episode, I was like, wow. The memory cheats. John Nathan Turner up in here.
I feel like this, like, because the way they reveal it is just, it's stomping down the corridor, but it's like a 1-second shot. And I was like, was that supposed to be the reveal? Or like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I think you're not supposed to be able to see him there, but somebody in the lighting department maybe brightened up the corridor a little too much. Because there's a moment in a little bit, the Doctor lands and the sub's sinking. Largely because the Ice Warrior's stomping around and making a ruckus and blowing holes in the... And the Doctor stops it from sinking all the way because he's able to get them to pilot the sub to land on like a ledge. And then there's a moment here where they actually meet the Ice Warrior, and the Doctor's like, it's an Ice Warrior. And I feel like that was supposed to be the big reveal.
Right, especially because they build up to it with the Doctor's like, is there something behind me? What's going on? Because they're sort of, the Doctor and Clara, I keep wanting to call her Jenna for some reason.
She does look more like a Jenna than a Clara, although whatever that means.
Well, they're sort of under scrutiny by the captain and basically everyone. They think that they're the ones who sabotaged the sub.
Right.
Pretty obvious assumption to make.
The captain just buys into the Doctor's expertise in the matter when he reveals that he knows what the Ice Warriors are.
Yeah, especially because they're apparently speaking perfect Russian.
The Doctor and Clara were supposed to land in Vegas.
Right.
The Doctor missed by a lot. Apparently, both Matt Smith and Jenna Coleman found this scene a lot of fun to film where the water was just pouring on them because they filmed it by apparently just literally dumping buckets of water on them.
Yeah, and they sort of touched that up by, like, misting them every once in a while, apparently. I wouldn't, if I were them, I don't know if I would consider that fun.
Yeah, I kind of hate being in, like, wet clothes.
Especially because you're gonna, I don't know how warm or cool the set was, but you're gonna cool off, it's gonna get real uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean, that's my least favorite part about the rain is being in wet clothes. And then also typically being pretty cold. And the clothes like stick to you. It's just like, ugh. Bad times. Bad times.
Bad times
Jeans are the
on
worst.
Russian sub. Wonder where this. Oh, right. It's in the Arctic.
Yeah.
I was wondering where it was, but I remembered it was like at the North Pole, like literally there. Gotta wonder what. Like, are they just like lost? What's going on?
No, I guess this is their assigned training route. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Were they training? Were they in training or like?
Yeah, that drill at the beginning was like a training drill
Uh,
for, I guess, the end of the world. You have to wonder, like, back in the day, if we had launched all those nukes, like, just all the dudes who lived on the
Mad
submarine.
Max.
Oh, yeah, it would be Mad Max, but all the people who lived on submarines would be, like, either completely oblivious to the, like, actual extent of the destruction of the world above, or, like, would be aware, but we're just like, I'm never going back up there. I'm just going to live on this submarine for the next 20 years.
That was like, have you heard about this? There was like this 90-year-old like Japanese World War II like soldier who was like just living on this random uninhabited island. And they found him in like 2005 or something, and he like thought the war was still going on.
Yeah, I have heard about him.
Yeah.
I guess nobody sent him a message.
Or like that's. Have you seen Austin Powers where they like unfreeze him and they're like they tell him the war is over and he's like, damn right, and always knew those Westerners would get what was coming to them. They're like, Austin the West won. He's just like, oh.
I have seen Austin Powers, but I don't remember it very well. I have to watch that trilogy for Triple Play at some point. Anyway, as you can tell, not a lot happened in the story because we're deviating from the plot a lot.
Yeah,
as is typical when nothing happens in the plot.
I do think the story was interesting in some ways, but it's just like, yeah, it got so boring.
Brought up a lot of interesting ideas.
Yeah. It's like,
I didn't do anything with them, though.
That's kind of typical of Mark Gatiss, I think.
Yeah, we'll save this for the end, though, because we're still trying to salvage this format here.
Yeah. The Ice Warrior tells the doctor its name, which is Skaldak.
Yeah, Skaldak.
And the doctor is shocked to hear this, because Skaldak is apparently a
really famous ice warrior general of some sort.
Yeah, and this is kind of like that guy who thought the war was still going on, because if you remember back to the Peladon stories, the Ice Warriors gave up their warlike ways.
Yeah.
But apparently Skaldak had been frozen.
And left Mars, I think, too.
Right. The doctor says that in this story. When Skaldak reveals that he's been frozen in the ice for 5,000 years.
I think the professor reveals that.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, how did you even determine that?
Maybe they like dated the ice. I don't know how that's possible, but
I don't know how you'd radiocarbon date ice. But, you know.
Maybe Christmas Story that licked the ice. It's like, yeah, this tastes about 5,000 years old.
Sure.
But Skaldak has not heard of the Ice Warriors giving up their warlike ways, and he's still part of this older generation.
He hasn't even heard of humans because the humans didn't exist when he was...
Yeah.
Well, they did, but they were extremely primitive.
Right.
It's 5,000 years, what, 3,000 BC?
Yeah.
BCE, if you want to be, like, quote, agnostic about it, even though the zero date for both is the
it's
same.
So based on Jesus Christ. And then Skaldak kind of goes on a rampage. They try and chain him up, but it doesn't work very well.
Well, so one of the soldiers, like, tases, I guess, with a cattle prod that for some reason they have on this Russian sub. The Ice Warrior.
When you go on a training expedition, you want to cover all your bases.
Yeah, when you go, like, thousands of meters under the surface of the ocean, you want to really be sure that you have that cattle prod for those cows you're going to encounter down there.
Yeah, sea cows, manatees.
Somehow
Arctic
don't think
manatees.
don't think that A in the Arctic or B this far down. So,
but Skaldak doesn't take too kindly to this. They do chain him up. They're successful in doing that, and they send in, I think,
Clara.
Yeah, Clara is like, I can pacify him. I can talk him out of killing all of us.
Well, so they have this conversation because the captain, Zhukov, wants to go in, and the doctor's like, no, he'll smell the soldier all over you from a mile away, and Zhukov's like, and he won't smell it on you. And I was like, oh, sick burn! But then they argue for a bit, and then Clara's like, look, I'm neither one of the crew or a soldier, so I should go in. And also, I'm the only woman on the sub, so also I should go in. And the doctor's like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. He sends her in.
And she fails. Miserably.
But not her fault, though. Skaldak just realizes that the doctor's talking in her ear, like, pretty quickly, because she's like, Doctor, what do I say? And he's like, yes, Doctor, what does she say?
She kind of blew her cover pretty easily.
Yeah, Clara wouldn't make a good undercover agent.
Is that alluding to something that's going to happen?
I mean, it wasn't intentionally alluding to anything. I was just making a silly joke. But if you want to pretend it's alluding to something, be my guest.
Sure. This story also doesn't advance the Clara mystery.
No.
If anything, it detracts from it by not bringing it up, making you
wonder where it is?
Or wonder where it is, I guess, or just have it be in the back of your mind. But anyway, Skaldak isn't pleased. He's not happy. He starts killing people.
Well, so Clara approaches the Ice Warrior, and it's revealed that, surprise, those Ice Warriors we've been seeing for years, those are just armor for the Ice Warrior inside.
We kind of knew that in some way.
Because of their mouths are, like, clearly underneath the protective outer shell of the armor.
Right, but it had never been really touched on how much of that was, like, Cyberman-esque, where they were fused with the armor or whatever.
Yeah, apparently it's just survival armor.
Yeah.
Like a power suit kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think this is I think we touched on this earlier, but this is one of the reasons why Moffat was brought on board or was convinced by Gatiss to do this.
Right. Because he was sold on this idea of seeing the Ice Warrior outside of its armor.
Yeah, and Gatiss definitely wanted to expand the Ice Warrior lore, I guess.
Yeah, the mythos.
And it's kind of cool. I mean, I don't like how it's achieved.
Here is an illusion for you. This is not the last time that Mark Gatiss will expand the Ice Warrior mythos.
Heck yeah. I'd been looking forward to the Ice Warriors coming back, and this was like, all right, it was okay, I guess. But I'm looking forward to more.
Mm-hmm.
I just want more. I just feel like maybe they kind of played it safe, just one Ice Warrior here or whatever.
I mean, it's supposed to be like a horror movie almost.
Yeah. I mean, that's when that vibe sort of starts with like the Russian soldiers or Navy or whatever this is. They're kind of wandering around in a horror movie-esque fashion. They're getting picked off.
Yeah, the doctor says this is new behavior from the Ice Warriors for him. He's never seen an Ice Warrior discard its armor like that.
Right. I feel like this would have worked better if there was a stronger cast of characters, maybe like Waters of Mars or something.
Mm-hmm.
Which I know that was a special and had the benefit of being longer than 40 minutes. But like the people getting picked up,
an extra 15 minutes of time.
Yeah, but even then, like the people dying in that one, or even like Impossible Planet and Satan Pit, it just works better because like the crew is more defined. It's not just these random people wandering around getting killed.
Yeah, basically the only people who have any character in this are Zhukov, barely, and the Professor, again, barely, although the Professor more so than Zhukov.
Right.
Zhukov. And even still, the Professor's like, I don't know, you kind of wonder why he's on this Russian military sub. Like, they didn't know they were going to discover this Ice Warrior, right? So you kind of have to wonder, like, from a Soviet command perspective, why would you put this Professor on this sub? Maybe this is his exile for liking American pop culture. It kind of seems to be implied that he's some sort of, like, janitor, too. He, like, cleans up or fixes things. I don't know.
I guess. Maybe it's that, like, I don't know, because you always hear about, like, Soviet mismanagement of, like...
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's just like, well, he's this really trained guy who has all this expertise, but because of poor management or whatever,
right,
he's just like a janitor on a sub.
His outfit reminds me of Mickey from Rocky.
What?
The trainer. Really? Yeah. The like gray sweat jacket and the beanie and the like 1980s Walkman-esque device.
Sure.
Although it's a real
Sure.
device, but I don't remember which it is.
Yeah,
Just listening to
considering
Ultravox.
like the Sony product placement that's been in Doctor Who, with like the Vios and some other stuff as well. I forget what. Wouldn't be surprised if it was just like a Walkman. Which are
He
like
calls
still
it something else, but
produced, aren't they?
I
Don't
think
they still
so.
make
Yeah, I
like
think
with
so.
tape players, right?
Yeah, but I think they're making for CDs
Oh.
right
But,
now.
I mean, even then, like CDs are still
Where's my Laserdisc Walkman?
just like lug it around with you.
Like a backpack.
No, that's some Mad Max level stuff,
Yeah.
or just like post-apocalyptic. Yeah. I mean, hey, once the internet or like the collective unconscious like sphere or whatever goes down, we're gonna be running off like cassette tapes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why physical media is better than digital. Buy all your movies on DVD.
Sure.
So we kind of watched some Russian soldiers die for a while.
Yeah.
We see the professor get grabbed, and Clara's like, "No, please don't kill him. He's a nice guy." Because he tries to cheer Clara up by singing "Hungry Like the Wolf" by Duran Duran.
And was this? I mean, I'm sure the answer to this is no, but was this like a Bad Wolf thing? Or they kind of reincorporating
no.
that? Or like,
No.
oh man, would have been cool if they used this song in series one.
No, instead we got Toxic by Britney Spears. That classic music.
I'm just thinking like Bad Wolf, Hungry Like the Wolf. They could have done
Yeah,
something.
kind of stretching it a bit here.
They could have like altered the song to where just have it say Hungry Like the Bad Wolf and have that stand out.
Works.
I don't think they could do that.
Yeah, I don't think that works. It's like the rhythm of the song.
Or like licensing rights. Like, what are you just going to get Duran Duran to re-record the song? They're still around though. They're still
They
around.
still play concerts.
Yeah.
They post their set lists on their Facebook page all the time.
Yeah, that's not surprising considering the average age of like Facebook is like 50.
It always includes all their encore songs too. I don't know if you've been to a concert in the past decade, but
No, I've never been to a concert.
oh, okay. This is just standard fare for concerts now. Is every artist ever will leave the stage and then come back 10 minutes later and do an encore.
Yeah.
It's like, why don't you just do that as part of the performance and then leave? I don't want to have to wait an extra like 10 minutes for you to come back to the stage to feed your damn ego, getting people to cry for an encore because you know they will. Anyway.
All right. Well, check out Duran Duran. Maybe they don't do that.
Check out Duran Duran.
Their concerts, not their.
Check
their
out our new
songs.
Duran Duran podcast. Coming never. We're going to break down every Duran Duran song in microscopic detail. 30-minute podcast episodes about 3-minute Duran Duran songs.
We could do like one season per song. Have it be like 12 episodes, 13 episodes per song.
So Skaldak lets him live, but he finds out from the doctor foolishly telling Zukov that if Skaldak launches one nuke, the entire world's going to blow up. Because the thing is, the doctor and Clara have been trying to get Skaldak to back off because his attacking him was an accident. And so they want him to back off. He's also like psychically called for his brethren, but the doctor's like, look, they're not even on Mars anymore, so they're not going to hear you.
Yeah, maybe the moral of this story is like if you have high-level secrets, or even just any secret, don't like say them out loud, because that gets Clara in trouble. That gets I guess the world in trouble with the threat of nukes.
Yeah, because Skaldak didn't even know the sub was carrying the possibility to like destroy the world.
Right.
But the doctor had to go and run his mouth and give it away. But they eventually make it to the bridge of the sub where Skaldak is ready to push the button, so to speak.
And we see Skaldak unarmored. We can touch on that again at the end, how that's all achieved.
He summons the armor to him though, and he gets back into it now, which makes him immune to all the bullets that the Russians are going to pump into him.
Yeah, kind of Iron Man 3-esque in a weird way.
I feel like
Coincidentally.
you would only make that reference because of the
Yeah.
timing through which we watched those two things.
Yeah, that's why I'm making it. We're about to record our Iron Man episode for our other podcast, Triple Play.
Which goes out in 3 days.
Yeah.
To you, listener. Not to us, 3 days. 3 days to you. Very confusing. And the Doctor then threatens to blow up the sub and take Skaldak with him instead, because the Doctor's like, I know a thing or two about sonic technology too. He arms this sonic screwdriver into another button, I guess. But then the Martians show up, and I guess they fixed the sub in the process of raising it off the ocean floor, because the sub seems fine, like post Skaldak being beamed off the ship.
Yeah, I guess this is some serious Martian technology, because they surface pretty fast.
Yeah,
they're all gonna get decompression, whatever sickness.
The bends.
Yeah. But this is also the first time we see the Ice Warrior ship, which I think we can also kind of include in how we, discussing the visuals of the Ice Warriors in a minute or two. I think it's the first time we see their ship.
Yeah, I think so. Now for some reason, trying to remember if we saw the ship in the classic series, I just remember the first Peladon story with the TARDIS. The third Doctor and Joe park the TARDIS. The second Peladon story, I don't remember. Second Peladon story was the fourth Doctor. Or Sarah's story, sorry.
Second one was Third Doctor.
That
one
Sarah.
Season of Third Doctor and Sarah.
Anyway, the first time they park the TARDIS just on the edge of that cliff, and then the lightning just hits it and it falls off, and the Doctor's like, well, guess we're stuck here for a while.
They actually they call back to that in this story with the TARDIS malfunctioning.
It's not even malfunctioning, it's bringing back the Hads.
Oh, yeah, we completely skipped over that.
The TARDIS just kind of vanishes when the sub starts singing. The Doctor's like, no, not now. And at the end of the story, he's like, I reset. And then Claude's like, what'd you say? And he's like, it's the head. Claude's like, what'd you say? And he's like, I reset the Hads. The hostile active displacement system.
So the final sort of scene of this story is them at the North Pole. Freezing cold, and them just
Except they seem fine.
Yeah, they seem fine.
Which is weird, because it's not even that cold here where we're recording. Them wearing 3 layers.
Yeah. And they sort of gaze up at the Ice Warrior ship, and they reminisce about almost dying.
The Ice Warriors.
And then everything's good to go.
Well, not really. There's a very clearly padding scene here where the Doctor goes into the sub and it's like, no, it's still armed. Skaldak could still blow up the Earth. It's like, please show us mercy. There's just Matt Smith acting to an empty room.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of forgot about that.
And then it de-arms, and the Doctor's like, cool, thanks, Skaldak. And then they're like, where's the TARDIS? Oh, it's at the South Pole, and he asks the sub for a lift. And I was like, that would take at least a week. It's like, yes, you're stuck on this Russian sub for a week.
They're not doing anything else.
Clara, the only woman, is stuck on this Russian sub full of soldiers who probably haven't had female contact in months for a week.
Well, they can just Frankenstein it, gather up the team of dogs that probably are on the sub, considering there's cattle on the sub.
Yeah.
And just sled down to the South Pole.
From the North Pole.
All the way. Don't get off the sled.
It's like those background Easter eggs they used to put in Star Trek when they'd have a map of the ship in the background. It's like this was clearly something you couldn't do until you could get it on Blu-ray, but you pause and you zoom in, and there's on the map there's just some random cattle or something, or a car, a hot rod just on the map somewhere on the Enterprise, and you're like, well, I guess that's a cool little background Easter egg. It's like the sub. It's just filled with cattle and dogs, apparently.
Yeah.
And that's how it ends. The Doctor asks for a ride, and it ends.
Yeah.
Now, I forget what episode's next week.
It's Hyde.
Oh, right, Hyde.
Another Neil Cross written story.
The one that stars the lady who played Verity Lambert in An Adventure in Space and Time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's weird. I was looking up Verity Lambert gifs the other day. Don't ask why. But
now I'm going to ask why. For the Twitter, right?
Yeah. It was yeah. But I couldn't tell if they were people who played Verity Lambert over the years, or if it was actually her. So I ended up not making the post.
Wow.
But yeah,
Wow.
that happened. Anyway, this story is pretty inoffensive. But there's kind of three things I want to touch on, which are the Ice Warriors costume / visuals,
Right.
Mark Gatiss as a writer, and Jenna Louise Coleman, I guess is how she's credited here. Her accent.
Uh-oh. Well, which of those do you start with?
Well, I mean, we've kind of been touching on the Ice Warrior visuals. So,
Yeah, we'll start with that.
yeah.
I like the updated, I almost said Cyberman, Ice Warrior costume, I guess.
Yeah, it's very classic. It hasn't really changed much in design. It's just improved.
It looks more, you could tell the Ice Warrior outfit was always supposed to be like pretty robust, but it actually looks robust now, like powerful.
Oh, yeah,
and
sure.
And impenetrable. Like it actually looks like that now. Whereas in the classic series, it was like pretty clearly made of styrofoam, and you just kind of had to use a little bit of imagination.
Yeah, it's done really well. You know, as someone who remembers the Ice Warriors fondly, I think I might have preferred a redesign. Although, you know, on the other side of that fence is like if they had been redesigned, I'd probably like, what the hell is this? Like,
it'd be a new classic Paradigm Daleks kind of thing.
Yeah, I like the new Paradigm though. I'm like their one
one hit wonder.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the new Dalek Paradigm. I like them. But anyway, yeah, when the Ice Warrior, when Skaldak takes off his armor, though, on the other hand, I don't know, maybe this is just like the classic series fan in me, but it's just like, really, that's what they look like underneath? That's what they've always
I
think
like? There was some failure in realization there with budget and time constraints there, because I could kind of tell that they were going for something like really cool and sort of lizard-esque, because the Doctor says at one point the Ice Warriors are reptilians from Mars.
They look more amphibian, though.
Yeah, they do. He does.
Yeah.
What was his name? Skaldak does. You know, I can kind of see what they were going for. I was a little let down by the reveal of him outside of his costume, just because I was like, wow, that CG is pretty bad. If it even was CG, I couldn't tell.
It was. Pretty sure it was.
Gatiss claimed they built a full animatronic of...
maybe it was then. I don't know.
Of Skaldak outside the uniform, but since they only ever saw his face, it didn't matter. Although you could see his whole body in the Cold War playset that was released.
Right.
They're one of those people who collects Doctor Who action figures. I almost said dolls.
Yeah, but I don't know.
I like the design of the
Shane from Jimmy Neutron.
I like the design of the Martian ship too.
Yeah, it looks cool.
Although, you know, the purple was kind of a surprising choice for me. I don't know why. I guess I just never associated the Ice Warriors with like purple aesthetic.
Yeah, I mean, we've probably always associated them with green.
Yeah, because they were green. And that was like the only thing we ever got of them.
Yeah, I remember in the first Peladon story, I was like, wait, they're green? Because I always thought they were just like black or whatever, because of the black and whiteness of the classic era. But yeah, I mean, I'm surprised. I mean, I liked the flying saucer-esque design, because like they're from Mars, so like all those reports of flying saucers could have been the Ice Warriors in their ships. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Overall, maybe it wasn't realized in the best way, but I like all the ideas they had.
It does feel almost like a kind of a Deus Ex Machina, though, because it kind of comes out of nowhere at the end of the story to just end it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a Mark Gatiss thing.
Yeah, so Mark Gatiss, I never realized this until now, but I was going over like all his other stories, like Idiot's Lantern, and what was that book we read like a couple years ago?
Lost of the Gathering.
Yeah, Lost of the Gathering.
He's written another episode that I'm blanking on right now.
Yeah, he did one of the
Victory of the Daleks.
Yeah, Victory of the Daleks. There's always like, or usually, I guess, someone trapped. And they like, I don't know, there's just this figure that keeps repeating of like someone trapped somewhere, whether they're malevolent and they're trapped to contain them or they need to free them or whatever, is up to the individual story. But it's something I have now noticed over most of Mark Gatiss' stories.
Well, every writer has their
quirks.
Signature, I guess.
Yeah.
Mine is that I always have a scene set in a diner somewhere, every story I write. I don't know why I'm revealing that information. Just to reinforce his point that every writer has their signature. Moffat's is like questionable convolution of the timeline. Most of the time, not always. So Moffat is the one who I'd say is like least able to be pigeonholed into something like that.
I don't know. He has a couple. I mean, if we're going to narrow it down to one, then yeah, he's probably pretty hard to be pigeonholed. But he has like a couple things that keep recurring.
Yeah, I guess. Malcolm Hulk's stories were always like vaguely political and pro-socialistic.
Right.
Is that a word? Socialistic? Yeah. It's a word now.
Bob Baker and Dave Martin stories always had the thing of like...
people running through corridors a lot.
That and like... just all their ideas thrown into the story with no like apparent editing.
But yeah, and I guess like Mark Gatiss's is I don't know. I would also say that Mark Gatiss's plots are like a little underbaked sometimes.
Yeah, they're pretty straightforward, which is
not bad.
Not bad, and in fact is actually good in this era of Doctor Who. You know, when you have Moffat going off the rails sometimes. It's sometimes nice to have these stories inserted that are pretty simple.
Right.
Although you also, like this story, kind of run the risk of
being too simple.
Right.
I mean, that's always a fine line to walk either way, though. Like with Moffat, there's always that fine line between complex and incomprehensible.
Yeah, sure.
And, you know, in my opinion, he's definitely crossed into incomprehensible territory
a
couple times, right? And this is just like Mark Gatiss going the opposite way, almost like oversimplifying, which, I mean, might stand as a testament to their partnership being like a pretty well thought out one, because you get these two opposing viewpoints.
Sure.
You know, on something like Sherlock, when they're either co-writing episodes or at least coming up with a plot together, you get these two opposing viewpoints, and at least, you know, you get something that kind of falls in the middle, which typically ends up being pretty good.
Yeah, and you know, I haven't watched too much of Sherlock. I've only watched a couple episodes, which is, I mean, there's only like, what, 10 or 9?
13.
13. But Gatiss is more of a driving force behind that show than he is Doctor Who. Although he's a big name in Doctor Who as well. So maybe that, what you're describing, works better there than it does in Doctor Who. Because we don't always have Mark Gatiss or, you know, another writer to rein in Moffat or I mean, anyone who does those off-the-wall stories. I mean, even Neil Cross, in a way, last week was kind of approaching that with how much was in the story.
A little bit. And I think that's just the Moffat era in general, is a lot of that. I don't know, it's almost a reaction to Russell T. You know, Russell T was like, I wouldn't say like classic-oriented. Russell T stories can get pretty complex, but there's a campiness to Russell T stories that isn't present in the Moffat stories. I think Moffat is a different kind of campiness.
Sure. Yeah, that's actually a pretty good way to describe it. Other than that, I mean, I didn't look anything for this I didn't look up anything about Jenna Louise Coleman's like upbringing or her accent or whatever, but I don't know, her accent is a little strange. This might just be because she's from, you know, she's young, I guess. Probably like 30-ish now, or in her 30s, but
yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. So this might just have to do with like Americanization, but like some of the words she pronounces are not, I think, typical of, you know, English accents. I don't know.
I've never really.
But she says like can't instead of can't.
Yeah, can't.
And there are a couple other instances where I'm like, that's a strange accent.
I've never really noticed, to be honest. Never really paid that much attention, to be honest, as well. But I guess now I'm going to be paying attention now that you've brought it up. It'll be one of those things you can never unsee or unhear.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, other than that, like, I don't know. I wouldn't consider this a great story.
No, neither would I.
Pretty dull. Again, I mean, I considered Lost to be pretty dull as well.
Yeah.
So, great. You can email us at thedoctor@decorativevegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, your thoughts on Mark Gatiss.
What?
You can find us on YouTube at Decorative Vegetable. You can find us on Apple Podcasts and Google Play at Trust Your Doctor. Be sure to leave a rating if you like the show.
Like us on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor. Like us on Facebook. Also check us out on Twitter at TYD Podcast and follow us on Twitter. Next time we're watching Hyde. But until then, the end.